So I've watched a lot of movies this year. Here are my top 10. It's the end of the year. It's the end of the day. It is exactly December 31st, and I want to wash all of my clothes before the new year starts. Now, I could do that at home, or I can come to the laundromat where I can wash everything essentially at the same time to save some time. And to save even more time, I'm going to film this video. Let's talk about my top 10. I've seen easily over 100 movies this year. I feel like my average is like 4 times a week, and with that math, that's like close to 200 and something. Yeah, there's a few horror movies on this list. There was a period of time where I was having nightmares every night. I don't know if that is related to the amount of horror movies that I watch, but I talked about it with my therapist. So yeah, here's my top 10. Let me pull out my list. So I've actually split this up into 3 categories. I have my top 5, the next 5 after that, and then honorable mentions for a few films that I just think were really fantastic. If you're new here, I have talked about The Substance a few times. At its core, I can relate to it as a woman, and I just felt so much comfort really in what I saw, even though the end of the movie brought me to tears. So I've said a lot about it already in a full review. I love what it's about and how it's wrapped in a horror lens. I highly recommend really every movie on this list, but put this one at the top. The most recent movie I watched is Nosferatu. I am new to the game. And people have acknowledged my newness, and that's okay because you can't be first in line for everything. So there's some things that I am in fact up on and some things that I'm not. I read Dracula in high school. The movie is gorgeous. It is this gothic horror romance. There's a sense of romanticism here, and it was amazing. It was there were parts that made me laugh. The performances are spectacular, truly. Lily Rose Depp really did her big one. I'm not familiar with her as an actress. I watched a few interviews. The director said there were no digital alterations to their bodies as they're doing these like violently like shaking or violent sort of movements or facial expressions. It is all the actors. It was all her, and that's so fucking cool. I want to watch the movie again. I'm gonna watch it again, but I don't need to put it on my top 10 of the year. So here it is. Let me just give you the top 5 straight. The Substance, Blink Twice, Nosferatu, Inside Out 2, and Exuma. Yeah. Inside Out 2 brought me to tears. Anxiety was a character. I know her personally, and I was so moved by their portrayal of anxiety and how she coexisted with the other emotions. Anxiety's trying her best. Inside Out is fantastic. Inside Out 2 is equally fantastic. Inside Out is, I think, equal parts made for children as it is made for adults. And for the adults that don't watch animated films, you're missing out because adults are making these animated films. So yeah, as far as humor goes in certain situations, I feel like animated films are easily relatable in that sense. Exuma, it is a Korean horror film, the first Korean horror film that I've ever, no, because I've seen Parasite. Exuma had the best ritual scene that I've ever seen in my entire life. It was beautiful. It was moving. there in that scene with them. That's how well it was filmed. Basically, the movie is about what happens after this one particular grave has been dug up and the connections to the different family members. I really enjoy Korean dramas for their level of storytelling, but in the ways that it's like every character is important. Like there are no side characters. Everyone's story means something to the big story. And yeah, it's like no small parts, and I really like that. The movie is great. I've seen Blink Twice a few times now. I think it is a spectacular directorial debut. I knew what was coming and it still scared me. That is very impressive. What's really amazing to me about this movie is that for a nice portion of it, it felt like a romance. I think that's a real highlight to the main character's chemistry. Because it was romantic. It was feeling sweet. I was shipping it. I was shipping it for a little bit of time. There were some parts visually that just stunned me, like a scene where the light literally left one of the characters' eyes as she came to realization of what had been taking place and what had been taking place in regards to her. I appreciate that there was a trigger warning for that movie. That was very well needed. Violence towards women, especially sexual violence, is used as a form of entertainment in a lot of spaces, and I understand that. But I also have a certain tolerance for it. So this is not a specific. So this is not. What am I trying to say? This is not. I don't want to see many stories like this. Just me personally, because they're sad. It's sad. It's sad. Another highlight of this movie is how the women fought for their power back. The ending is not predictable in any way. So basically, Blink Twice is a movie about two friends that get invited to a billionaire's island. The cinematography, the color use, I love a horror movie that doesn't need to like be in the shadows for it to be scary. You know, can it look like a horror film before the violence takes place? Like The Shining. And The Shining, many frames, it looks like a horror movie. And that's how I felt about Blink Twice. Like, it looked like a horror film, even though the setting is this like beautiful island with like lush green colors and like pool and fun. And yeah. 1 second. Your Monster starring Melissa Barrera. Perfect. I was heavily anticipating the release of that movie, and it did not disappoint. The movie really covers several genres, and it's really amazing that it's not overdone or overwhelming, even though it is horror, part romance, part comedy, part musical. That's very impressive. I completely did not expect the ending. This movie is about a woman that was recently dumped after finding out she has a terminal illness. And in her period of breakup and trying to put things back together, she finds a monster in her closet. And I want to say it only goes up from there. It was the perfect October release. It was soft and cozy, and it's just so good. There's another movie in my top 10 that is a Korean film. It's called Escape. I don't like military movies at all. And the fact that this is a military movie and had my ass in tears. This movie is about a man trying to escape the military in North Korea. If that doesn't tell you like the weight of it right there. I don't know what else to say, but it was very moving, and it just made me feel gratitude for life. Twisters is such a fun film. I wish I watched it in 4DX. I did watch it in IMAX. I've been saying all year, you don't face your fears, you ride them.
You don't face your fears, you ride them.
Glenn Powell has kept himself relevant, I feel like, for the last couple of years, doing a few rom-coms and doing this movie, and it was just fun. And actually, Twisters actually reminded me of Final Destination. And the movie is not scary, but it has all of the thrilling aspects that you would expect. We're on the honorable mentions. Thelma. Thelma is about an older woman who goes on this sort of adventure in order to save her grandson from this like money scheme. And it's funny because the things that she experiences that wouldn't be difficult for a younger person are difficult for her at her age. At her age, she's facing different challenges that older people can relate to when your body changes. This is what happens when your body changes. Sometimes it's hard to get up. My knees have already started making noises. But the movie is very sweet, it's funny, and because Hollywood likes to age out older women specifically, I was very happy to see her in the lead of this. Honorable mention for Babes. Babes is the best friend movie that I've seen in a very long time. This movie is completely centered in platonic love. It is fucking hilarious. The movie is about one woman who gets pregnant after a one-night stand, and she decides to keep the baby. It's also covering what it is to be a new mother. I don't know what that's like, but it was entertaining to see someone figure it out, and for that newness and that freshness and that honesty of how interesting that process can be. I don't want to say gross. I mean, the body does what the body does when you're having a baby, so there's that. Love Lies Bleeding is on this list because it looks good. It was eye candy, if you will. Kristen Stewart is smoke show. Our leads in this movie, smoke shows. Yes. I didn't really love the story. Well, I didn't love how the story ended. This movie is centered in toxic relationships, and it felt like there was no true happy ending from my perspective. So Love Lies Bleeding is a movie about a gym owner who falls in love with a bodybuilder, and in the midst of that is crime and drugs and really toxic relationships. Transformers 1 was really good. I'm a sucker for the making of a villain. I've seen all of the Transformers movies, and I'm a big fan of Keegan-Michael Key, and he is a phenomenal voice actor. Like, he's amazing. There's not really too much I feel like I can say about this particular animated film. And lastly, Alien Romulus. I watched all of the Alien movies for the first time this year, so that was an experience that I really enjoyed. And it was really nice to have all of the movies fresh on my mind. Out of the 6, Aliens, the second one, which I love the title, they just added an S, I think that's so funny, is definitely my favorite out of the 2. It is definitely my favorite out of all of them. Just feel like certain movies you should see in 4DX, and that was one of them, and it was so fun. And I was blown away by the sound mixing of this movie. Literally blown away. I think it can be difficult. First of all, sequels are difficult, but like being a part of a series, just there's this expectation to perform a certain way because the movies are, you know, well loved and people have their different connections to them for different reasons. And I think that they did well, but I'm a newbie on this. Like I said, you can't be first in line for everything, and I was not first in line for this one. You're done? And that is the end of the video. Recording this in this setting was way harder than I thought it was gonna be. Thank you so much for watching. That's my list. I know it was all over the place. If you like this video, please subscribe because there will be better than this, okay? Pinky promise. And we could just talk about movies. Comment below your favorite movie of the year. Bye. Happy New Year.